My name is Rowan, and I am the Assistant Provost for Curriculum and Assessment. And this was written for last semester's iteration of the workshop. And I'm focusing on the role of assessment in the teaching of a course and in the preparation of a syllabus. So I'm going to speak a bit about the evaluation of objectives and outcomes, and that's within a course setting. General education assessment, program assessment, and sharing of data. The syllabus template, Dr. Bound's review. I'm sorry that it's somehow I've sent it forward with different ink. But this was developed in the gear up for the recent and successful HLC accreditation visit. It's a recommended format because while it would likely be a less than optimal syllabus if it did not have these elements in it, there are across programs and colleges a variety of ways of making this happen. And this format was taken through the Academic Affairs Subcommittee of the Faculty Senate. It was vetted through the HLC Steering Committee at that time. Of course, some of the colleges on campus that you may be involved with also have formats. The one that comes to mind is the College of Education. This format was always meant to be supplemented with anything more specific at the college or program level. And I would say that what it highlights is the need to include the course level objectives and outcomes as Dr. Bounds presented them. And one little difference relates to general education on the template. We have at the institution, I think it's 13 general education outcomes, though they've recently been revised to some smaller number now. And what is happening at present and what happened in the past is that each department and program of the university can prepare a proposal to have one or more of the courses that are taught out of that program department form part of the general education curriculum. And in order for that to be the case, the core, among other things, you have to, the department program has to say which of the 13 at present, soon to be less than 13, gen ed outcomes the course covers, and design an assessment that will measure the extent to which the student accomplishes or learns, can demonstrate learning around those outcomes through the course. So when we speak of, when this template speaks of gen ed outcomes for the course, it's meant to be from that list. Maybe I should have put from the defined list or something. So I won't belabor this any further other than to reiterate it's a recommended format to be supplemented at the college and program level. And it's meant to be flexible. So, when we get into assessment, it's very important for various accrediting bodies, for faculty and staff and administrative evaluations of instructors and instruction, but to begin with for our students, that they know what we want them to do, what we want them to learn, what we expect of them. And I've always found that CSU students are willing to work hard, and that they appreciate a clear roadmap of what is entailed. So it's very important for the student to know objectives and outcomes in order to succeed in the class, to know a bit about what the instructor expects and how that will inform assessment within the course. And then, of course, to use the same word again, assessment in the course can and usually does relate either to general education assessment at a college or university level and program-based assessment at the college or university level. So, though they're not in this syllabus format, one might well put a program's outcomes. If it's a capstone course, a freshman seminar, a required course or experience in a discipline and field for a degree, there are any number of ways to strengthen course evaluation and make clear on the syllabus what is expected. It's good, as Dr. Bounds indicated, that our statements of what students are supposed to do, the objectives, the outcomes, incorporate action verbs. And for the moment I've forgotten the name of the lexicon that this particular handout reminded me of, that beautifully details different kinds of ways of looking at the learning process. We need to be able to tell accrediting bodies, evaluators, and our students what we want them to know, to be able to do with the instruction that is provided. It's also certainly helpful and for assessment, and much of what I say is meant with respect to the North Central Association, the Higher Learning Commission that accredits Chicago State, that, as Dr. Bounds indicated, we have measurable outcomes, so that if it's students will understand, will draft and defend a bill for the before the U.S. Senate based upon a policy area, how will we measure that? Is there a rubric, perhaps, for A, B, and C knowledge production or performance that would tie into the outcomes and objectives stated on the syllabus? Is it a quantitative metric, A, B, C, or D? So, in the syllabus, I've always found it helpful, I know we all have, to be very clear about the grading scale, about the percentages of assignments toward the overall grade, about how many of what kinds, even if it's something like there'll be pop quizzes, to say 30% pop quizzes, they could come at any time without, or there'll be 5 of them over the term. It's very helpful for our students, and that's all I have to say there. If we are teaching classes that are part of the general education curriculum, look to hear from the chairperson, the program coordinator, the general education assessment coordinator, as they're called, that you are to administer an instrument. The instrument is probably already designed. If it's going to be updated, hopefully one would be invited to participate in that process, since the assessment instruments are designed, should be designed, are designed by faculty, for use by the faculty. So if you're new here, or you've taught for many years and you're in a course where you're given an assessment, it's not an insult, it's not meant to say we're going to, because it's not used that way, monitor how well you teach. It's more to provide a way for the university to publicize the relative efficacy of our learning enterprise. And incidentally, the HLC team was pleased with the assessment enterprise or culture at Chicago State. We certainly have things that we want to do to improve further. It's not hard to find those, but all of us were gratified by that. There are assessment coordinators, a better part of 50 for the program, and the general education. Dr. Mark Sudduth is the general education assessment coordinator. Dr. Elizabeth, and he's in music. Dr. Elizabeth Arnott Hill is the program for graduate and undergraduate and certificate program assessment coordinator. So general education courses are assessed in the fall and spring semesters. At this point, it's a subset of the entirety, since we don't really have what I would call a tight list of what counts as a general education course. That will be amended with the new general education curriculum that's being formulated now. The chair of that committee is Dr. Steve Rowan. But you may be asked to put on your syllabus the outcomes associated with the gen ed course you teach, to administer an instrument that's already been identified, to conduct that assessment in live text if you're in a certain pilot set of courses. That's Spanish, Physical Science 1080, English 1270, Reading 1500. Please work well with your colleagues in the department so that the coordinator can have the data from the assessment. It may be how many students fell on the rubric in which categories, results for a pre and a post test. It all depends on the course. And this is very important, again, as I said, for us to have, as we did, data that shows that we teach, that we succeed in teaching, but perhaps as much or more that we use that data to make improvements. And what I would say is, in very general terms, haven't yet operationalized it, but we're going to, under the new general education curriculum, assess all courses that are taught as gen ed. We'll probably rotate those that report out. But beyond, and so at present, gen ed assessment at Chicago State is course-based. But assessment can also be summative in a different sense. It can say, this student, Mr. Rowan, knows critical thinking, computation, written verbal expression, ability to speak in a foreign language, problem solve around daily situations, whatever the outcomes are overall. So we're going to look at implementing through the examinations office a rising junior aggregative summative gen ed instrument. This would, many, perhaps most of our undergraduate students, this is undergraduate of course, are transfer students, but for those who come here and stay here, we're also a pass-through institution, and are here as rising juniors. We want to test how well they have accomplished the entirety of the gen ed outcomes. That's a goal for assessment in the longer term. The course that you teach may also be, in addition to a gen ed course, or even if it isn't a gen ed course, a required or key class in an academic program, a degree granting program, in a certificate program, in a minor, in a graduate program. So you may be asked to cooperate and share information about lesson plans that are prepared in an education course. So that senior thesis capstone project, exhibit portfolio, live text archive. You may be asked to provide access to colleagues who must collect data for how well students do as members of a degree program or a certificate program. In that case, it's the same thing. It's meant to demonstrate that academic programs at the university can provide numerical data on how well they do, that they use that data to make improvements, and that we publicize to internal and external audiences the results of learning. There are coordinators for assessment in the academic programs. We are moving toward wider use of live text as a basis for assessment. Mike Sikowski is an expert on live text. I consider him to be an expert on live text. I'm sure some of you all are very knowledgeable. I'm becoming more knowledgeable. But a certain amount of one of the years, or several of the years, tuition increase was set aside for purchasing live text subscriptions. The Board of Trustees at its most recent meeting approved a resolution to acquire $250,000 worth of live text subscriptions over the next 3 years. We're using live text for gen ed assessment in a pilot mode. Pharmacy, social work, College of Education have invested in it. We're going to move to encourage, and probably some other word like make it happen, but a collegial version, so that the students doing senior theses who may be applying for grad school, who may be going on to the world of work and the professions, will have from beginning to end of their time at CSU a number of artifacts that are in live text that can be shared with professors, with assessment coordinators, employers, accreditors, grad school applications in some form or fashion. And live text is a wonderful means of doing that. So, writing effective and well-stated and accurate program objectives and outcomes and course goals, objectives, and outcomes is critical to what we do. We live in an era of increasingly probing interest in proving the value of the educational enterprise. And I won't say that's a bad thing. I think that it has its own problems, but it's happening. And all of the work or the helpful development that Dr. Bounds has provided today, it illustrates that and illustrates a path for all of us as we work and teach and convey learning, and then as we prepare for assessments, not just assessing students, but conducting general education and program assessment. So that's about all I had to say. I think I should have advanced these as I went through, so I need to do a few more presentations than I have. But thank you for your attention. These are wonderful resources, Dr. Bounds.